Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner, Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, that was a really fun weekend at Wrigley Field, packed with fans. Generally, the weather cooperated. It was,
Mhm.
Boston versus Chicago is always fun, I feel like. Cubs, Red Sox, whether it's at Fenway or Wrigley, that's going to be a fun series, but both teams were playing well coming into that. Uh, those first two games, the Cubs looked like great. Like they were ready to play. They looked like the best team in baseball, and for a few hours, they were the best team in baseball.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not going to overreact to Sunday's game. Some of those bullpen arms are just due for a bad outing. But this team looks damn good, and has come out of the gate, I think showing like, okay, first half was really strong. Let's continue this, and I kind of like their mantra of, we're not worried about anything else. One day at a time. They're sticking to it. It gets kind of boring, but I feel like that's the best way to go about it, especially with the Milwaukee Brewers just red hot, and they can't control what they do. All they can do is control what's in front of them.
Yeah, the Brewers will not go away. I mean, sweeping a series at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah,
I think they've been playing like 700 something ball since maybe
it's
Memorial Day
insane.
weekend. I mean, it's a pretty long stretch, a very insane clip of winning. Yeah, maybe that will recede a bit. I think the Cubs have an easier schedule going forward, but there's still those, I think it's 8 head-to-head matchups, both home and away. I think will be great theater. I think it's good that the Cubs are being pushed in this manner, but it's going to get a little uncomfortable. And I think we will see the panic meter surging on social media, just because the Brewers are so pesky and they just do it in these ways. You're like, how do they keep doing it? But they do.
Yeah, and like you said, it's going to be nerve wracking for the fans. Um, I think it's incredibly fun. Like these types of races, being pushed by another team. Obviously, ideally for the Cubs, they want to run away with the division and get a top two seed in for the playoffs, get that bye, all that stuff. But part of it is I kind of look back to Game 7 of the World Series. I know some fans would have preferred that to be a blowout. I think that's a great story. Now you look back, now that you know the ending, right? The
Yeah.
the the ride was really fun. That what an insane game. What like that Rajay Davis moment is now a moment. It's an unforgettable moment. So yes, it's going to be nerve wracking, but this ride should be fun if the Cubs can, especially if the Cubs pull it off. I know if we don't know what happens. I feel like the Cubs are good enough, and that they will. We'll talk more about this, and we're going to continue to for the next 2 weeks or 10 days, I guess. Um, they're going to be aggressive. The rest of this month is going to be really fun and chock full of rumors. Uh, and I think they're going to make the right moves to kind of get there. Maybe they're going to make moves to get there. I think something else I was thinking about is they've kind of nailed every move for this year. Can they continue nailing those moves the rest of this month? I think that'll be huge. But it's just really fun to see the Brewers not going away. I agree with you that the schedule's difference, I think, may end up being the difference at how different it looks. But when you sweep the Dodgers, I mean, the Cubs fans just have to be so annoyed. There are like 1-2 run wins consistently too during this stretch for the Brewers where they're not blowing teams out. Some of this is randomness. You're getting they're stepping up in the biggest moments. Guys like Andrew Vaughn coming through for the Brewers. Just the type of stuff that's maddening for a team you're rooting against. But it's really fun to watch, in my opinion.
I think back to 2018 when the Brewers just would not stop winning there that September. And like the Cubs didn't collapse. They did not play maybe their best baseball. Clearly, the Brewers played better, but that was not like a Cubby occurrence. It was just like the Cubs
No.
kind of played above average, and the Brewers played at their, insane level that has so frustrated Cubs executives over the years. And this kind of feels like that. I mean, to win back series against the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox, and to have, your best players in the All-Star game, to have several, All-Star snubs, right there waiting as well. Shoto Imanaga coming back and pitching like an ace. Just in general, I feel like things are going well for the Cubs, but it's just that the Brewers have really forced the issue there. Like the Cubs just didn't bury the Brewers, and now it's going to be kind of fascinating to see how these clubs are going to respond at the trade deadline. I mean, even when the Brewers do like their small moves, like they strike gold. I mean, Andrew
Yeah,
Vaughn. I mean, like Drew
Quinn
Pomeranz.
Priester.
Yeah, Quinn Priester. I mean, going
Yeah.
back to the Drew Pomeranz when he went over to the Brewers, it was just like he
Yeah.
pitched, the best couple months of his life until this season here in Chicago.
Yeah. You know, sorry, I was looking up Quinn Priester's number and lost my lost my train of thought. I got to take a break. My brain is I'm gonna have them
I
edit
mean,
this out.
Quinn Priester grew up a Cubs fan in Illinois. His family, was involved in the Cubs. Was the guy the Cubs scouted for that first round of his draft year, but had a sense he was going to be off the board by the time they picked. And yeah, after not clicking with the Pirates and getting moved to Boston and shuffling around, it's like he shows up and all of a sudden has an opportunity, has a support system, and might wind up being the most among the most impactful pitchers traded during the season. It just
Yeah.
happened to be, what was it, in like May or something like that? I mean, it was just
Right.
a great move on the Brewers' part.
Yeah, sorry. I totally spaced because Quentin Priester threw me off. What my point that I was wanted to make was uh this is almost you could almost spin this as being pushed right now by the Brewers is a good thing for the Cubs. It should give this front office more clarity on okay, don't have a false sense of security. Don't, we have a 5-game lead. We don't need to panic as far as upgrading certain areas. A game like Sunday should give them a little bit more clarity as far as the bullpen. Yes, you need a fourth trusted reliever. Right now it's Palencia. Keller looked great those first 2 games after struggling, after showing some signs of like, oh, is there a sign of weakness here from Keller before the break? And then who's the third reliever that I'm thinking of that's been dominant? Palencia, Keller,
Thielbar from the
Thielbar,
left side.
Thielbar,
Yeah.
Thielbar. So those three, I feel like yes, they're locked in. They're in there for the long haul. You never know with the relievers, but the others are showing some signs. Pomerantz just wasn't going to keep up that pace. That would have been impossible. I still think he's been brilliant, but you just add whether it's pushing all those guys down one rung, whatever it may be, but a veteran what Presley was supposed to be. Presley's been fine. He gave up 1 home run yesterday. He's been fine. He hasn't been dominant, locked down. Maybe he doesn't instill like the type of confidence that maybe Palencia does when he steps in there. Thielbar just continues to be masterful when he goes in there. So getting one more veteran that can handle those high leverage spots. I know Ryan Brazier's been great since he got healthy, but still, you add a veteran, you do that. I think it's good that they're being pushed because it shows that okay, you cannot sit on your hands. You can't assume that all will go well. I think that's exactly what the Cubs need to kind of motivate them and push them to make the right moves this break. All right, Patrick, let's take a quick break and come back and talk some more Cubs.
Nothing says summer like long days, clutch plays, and firing off a few bets on the game, all with DraftKings Sportsbook. Never bet on baseball before? It's easy. Pick a guy to go yard, hammer some live odds mid-game, or just ride your squad and hope for the best. No spreadsheets, just vibes and dingers. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers get bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Patrick, Matt Shaw played 3 games this weekend, started 2 of them, looked significantly better than the first half. It's 3 games. He had a home run, had some, even his outs were well struck. I thought he looked like like kind of like he did right when he was recalled. And it was probably good to see him pull a ball authoritatively and hit that home run. I don't think one good weekend washes away, which would have been pretty extreme struggles for third base in general. That remains an area of need. I think you can kind of what I was just saying before the break. You have this moment, you have these 10 days, you have this space. So only real time where you can make these upgrades. You can't overthink this and say, no, we're fine. It's all good. I'm not saying they have to go out. If they don't get an upgraded third, it's a failure of a deadline. But I do think they're not thinking in the sense like we can relax now. He had a good weekend.
No doubt. I mean, Council said that before Sunday's games. If you don't make an evaluation off of 2 games, I mentioned to him, Craig, when you sent out Matt Shaw in the middle of April, you had said experience had taught you that 60 to 70 plate appearances is usually a good sample for evaluating a young hitter. And now, since Shaw has been recalled from Iowa, he's gotten 170 plus plate appearances without really gaining much offensive traction. And Council stressed, the plan is for Matt Shaw to play at third base almost every day. But he acknowledged that is part of the evaluation, that he has been given a great opportunity. And though he has not completely squandered it, he's shown he's a very good, more than capable major league defensive third baseman. He has not totally answered the question on a team that went into spring training knowing they were there was like one piece in that position player group that was a question mark. And it remains so in late July. And so there's enough time before the trade deadline. And the Cubs have the resources, both in money and prospect capital, to exhaust every possibility here. And you're right. Maybe they just kind of go bigger on pitching and kind of the depth takes a different shape on the position player side. This isn't, we'll get into this more in the next segment, but this is not like an overwhelming sort of like trade market.
Yeah.
But Shaw, I think they believe in him long term. There are things that they see that they appreciate. But there are lots of sort of like positive leading questions about Matt Shaw, and Council wasn't really having it. It was, well, look at what Miguel Amaya did last year. And, everyone remembers what Pete Crow Armstrong did in the middle of last season. And Council did one of his sort of chuckles and said, well, there's lots of stuff that fails that, people don't really talk about because it failed. And so we'll see like Shaw could be one of those success stories. He could have a lot of big moments in the last 2 months of the season. He could wind up, playing in the playoffs as a rookie, which would be a really nice achievement. But just in this window here, the Cubs have to look at what else is out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's great for Shaw to use as examples. Like Shaw absolutely should be like trying to get himself in a positive mindset. That's kind of what I asked him after the game on Saturday or whatever day that was that he hit the home run. I think that was Saturday.
Yeah.
That did you need that mental reset both with the series off before the break and then the break? And he said absolutely, it was huge. That helped him a ton. Just kind of get away from the game. Council talked about keeping him away from failure. That's kind of what he was doing in the Yankees series, and he had some success over the weekend. Great, that's how you build confidence. That's how you get on the right track. This could be something that is a positive sign for 2026. You can't let it keep you from trying to improve your chances of winning the World Series in 2025. Patrick, there's an obvious upgrade in Arizona. Eugenio Suarez just continues to mash. There's a chance that Eugenio Suarez doesn't do great in August and September. A team could acquire him like the Cubs, and he just doesn't. He doesn't have the. But he's on an insane run right now. It's 4 home runs over the last 2 games. It's his third. Yesterday was his third 2 home run game in the last 5 games, I believe, that he's played. Uh, just on a massive tear. Here's the thing: Arizona swept St. Louis. They're 4.5 games back, and of a wild card spot. They don't want to sell. They think they can win. They've been banged up. They've had a ton of bad luck with injuries. Zach Gallen has not pitched like himself in the first half. They think they can get a better Zach Gallen in the second. Going forward. Obviously, they have a ton of talent on offense. So this decision, it's a tough decision for them because they have 3 expiring contracts, all big players. They're not a team that consistently re-signs all their players. They have a lot of money out, signing Burns. They were aggressive this past offseason, as they should have been. It's going to be an interesting deadline for them. Do they kind of do the half in, half out? Do they try and recoup some value for Suarez? Because they could just call up Jordan Lawler and play him at third base. And if they could get like a borderline major leaguer in a Suarez deal, someone that could help right away, maybe that makes sense. Maybe that's one of those creative things that Jed's talking about. Maybe there's a way to bring another team in that helps the Diamondbacks, and the Cubs are giving a process. I'm just trying to think of different when Jed's words of creativity keep coming into my head whenever I think of different trade scenarios. So I don't know. I wouldn't assume that they're going to move these guys, but they can also they also can't afford to lose guys in free agency and not have anything to show for it. It's a risk for a team like the Diamondbacks to not make these moves and not be aggressive at the deadline.
I guess the silver lining for the Cubs would be if the Diamondbacks don't sell, then Suarez can't wind up in Milwaukee.
Yes.
But that's kind of a stretch. Like, look, I mean, I think as you and I have compared notes over the last couple of days coming out of the All-Star break, I think it seems clear that the Cubs will be in this until the end on Suarez. It's no secret that they're looking for upgrades there. There's a really strong relationship between Cubs president Jed Hoyer and Diamondbacks general manager Mike Hazen. They're both New England guys who used to work for the Red Sox. There's some crossover between the Cubs and Diamondbacks front offices. You just get the sense that whatever dialogue is happening, like Jed is always sort of in that deal flow no matter what, but particularly given his strong connection to Hazen and there's the glaring need at third base, the Cubs are going to be there. And, we did not hammer this point in our latest story, but, the Red Sox had a third baseman who hit a pretty big home run on Sunday, some guy named Alex Bregman. And, this is kind of why there was frustration on the Cubs side when their offer fell far short of what Bregman was seeking. Is that they knew there was one spot on the diamond that was a question mark. There was like, this was kind of a moment when, after all this rebuilding and all those hard, unpopular decisions, it was kind of a time to just kind of go for it. And, the Cubs were not competitive in basically any of the metrics where free agents keep score. And, I don't know what the difference would be, if they had Bregman. I mean, it's important to remember, even though they're tied for first, they're still right around that best record in baseball. So, like, I don't know if the Cubs would be like 40 games over 500 with Alex Bregman. I sincerely doubt that. But as you look towards October, clearly he would have been a guy. And like, that was part of the frustration within the organization and the clubhouse of why people were still talking about Bregman long after he made his decision to sign with the Red Sox.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor the point. We've talked about it a lot, but it is the type of move that it's like step on their throat, flex your financial muscles type of move that an organization like the Cubs should be able to pull off. They didn't. It would have been like a really nice finishing touch to a really talented team. You're right. It's the one hole on the roster. You fill it with Alex Bregman, one of the best third basemen in the game, and you're looking very different at this team. I mean, it's hard to complain about this team's offense, but you're talking about just an impervious lineup. Then it'd be really impressive. The Diamondbacks have Houston for 3, Pirate at Pittsburgh, at Detroit before the break. That's an interesting schedule before the break. I mean, before the deadline, not the break. So we'll see how that goes. I just don't know what exactly Arizona is going to do, but that'll be fans have to watch that, because that's probably the best way to turn this lineup from one of the best in baseball to clearly, like, I don't think there would be a debate then who has the best offense in baseball if you fill that hole. All right, let's take a quick break and talk a little bit more trade rumors when we get back.
Time for a quickie break. Todd Father and I are going to tell you about Huel, but it's mostly going to be Todd Father because I'm going to take a sip.
Well, we're talking about Huel, 27 vitamins and minerals. It's a complete meal. Let's listen. We all have busy schedules. As Scott's sipping it down, it looks delicious. It tastes delicious. When we're on the run, we need something to eat quick. And guess what? Huel is there, all different flavors. Scotty loves them. I love them. And I love how variety packed it is. And we can eat them any time of the day.
That's right. Yeah, check out the website. There's bars. There are so many different flavors. I love the black edition. Chocolate, 35 grams of protein. There's strawberry shortcake, coffee caramel, cookies and cream. I can go on. And you get yourself 15% off if you're a new customer using the code FOUL at Huel.com/foul. Please see our description for the terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition with the code FOUL at Huel.com/foul.
Patrick, pitching is going to be the primary focus. Obviously, upgrade third base, but they need another starter, at least one. Bullpen help is always on the docket for competitive teams at the trade deadline. There's no obvious upgrade for the starting rotation. When I say obvious, I shouldn't say obvious upgrade. There's no obvious ace in the rotation. There are definitely upgrades, especially when you have an open spot in the bullpen games on certain nights. But there's no CC Sabathia type addition at this deadline. Randy Johnson, those types of Justin Verlander, those types of here's an ace stud that you know what you're getting from, and that doesn't mean that you don't get stud performance in the final 2 months. And I think that's kind of what Jed and his front office are looking for. This isn't going to be a deadline where, at least I don't think it's going to be a deadline where you look at the move that they make and say, that guy has dominated for the first 4 months of this season. Not sure if that guy's available. And even if he were, I just don't think that's how. I mean, Jed's been pretty clear. He keeps bringing up the 2021 Atlanta Braves. They're going to search for guys who may not be at their peak right now, but they think have their best 2 months coming. Uh, whether that's trending the right direction, whether that's under the hood metrics look better, or they think their defense can play this guy up, whatever it may be. I think the Cubs are searching for those types of players right now because that obvious ace isn't available.
Yeah, I'm curious. What do you got on Charlie Morton, the Baltimore Orioles starter who's won World Series with the Braves and the Astros? Had an awful start to this year, signed to a 1-year, $15 million contract, demoted to the bullpen, but is sort of trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, he had a stinker recently, but he's had some really strong outings. Like you said, I mean, I think his pitch usage has kind of changed over the course of the season. He's getting better results on certain pitches. He's got the track record, and that's kind of what is. It's not the Justin. I mean, we talked to Jed Hoyer on our show, and he talked about the Justin Verlander situation, kind of teaching them something. Um, Maybe just trust that this guy put in a different environment will step up. Uh, it happened with them the next year with Cole Hamels.
Mhm.
And I don't know if Charlie Morton has a, 1.5 ERA in the final 2 months, but he is the type of guy that you can take a bet on, take a gamble on, and say he's done it in the postseason. If we believe that the pitch mix or this is focus on these three pitches, whatever it may be, uh, keep them to 5-6 innings, whatever they see. I think there are reasons for optimism there. uh, I, may not be the biggest splash, but certainly a guy who has done it and helped teams win the World Series, and knows how to perform in the biggest moments, and can kind of turn it on for 2 months.
Yeah, I think it's important. We've discussed this before. Like the Cubs are looking at everyone, right? So like you see a tweet, Team X interested in player Y, who cares? But our job is to sort of explain, why is this name coming up? Why is he available? Why are they discussing with him? What would be the rationale for acquiring this player? And Morton fits kind of a historic example within the organization. There's some familiarity there in terms of like just knowing that he won't be intimidated in a big moment. And I think as you see them kind of rolling out their rotation here in the second half, like there's lots of reasons for optimism, but there's also just this nagging sense and understanding that they absolutely need to get another starter. Like I think that is just kind of like a clear number one need, with like kind of bullpen as maybe 1A. And that is also a way to help your starting pitching, right? Of like, if you add another trusted reliever to shorten the game, you're not asking a Charlie Morton or whatever, a Merrill Kelly, a Zach Allen, if the Diamondbacks do sell. Like, you're not asking them to pitch like 8 innings every night. It's like, can you get through the lineup twice with a lead and then let a shutdown bullpen take over?
Yeah, Zach Gallen would be another good guy to bet on if you feel like he's trending in the right direction, or you see things that aren't too concerning. Uh, One guy that you could argue. I mean, he certainly was an ace at one point in time. He has a Cy Young under his belt. Sandy Alcantara. Sounds like there are. I mean, there are legit concerns there. Patrick, what have you heard recently about Alcantara?
I think it's just not just the performance question, which is very much an open, undecided issue. It's also just like, how much more can he throw this year? And I think you could be confident of Sandy's future with a full normal offseason ramp up, and in, you know, a, a better situation. Frankly, just like the Marlins, let's face it, have been sort of unstable slash dysfunctional over the years. But if you feel really strongly about your pitching infrastructure, like there's a case to be made to believe in his talent and his track record. But that track record only goes so far over the next 2 months, when he did not throw a single pitch all of last year. So I think there's just, the Cubs need someone who can just step in and take the ball and not, like we say, be some sort of like Randy Johnson ace or the CC Sabathia, just that amazing workload he carried. But you can't bring someone who you're not sure like if he's gonna last the rest of the race, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that the innings thing and like how much he has left this season is a factor that probably we hadn't talked about enough. Like
Yeah.
I do wonder if the Marlins uh, should have waited a little while, like given him more time. I think they were anxious to build that value up, and maybe the value would have been built up more if they were a little bit more patient with him and he didn't get going in earnest and really getting after it until like the middle of May. You still probably could have. I mean, if that works out right, then you still get a ton of value from him. The hindsight's 2020, and I'm making these calls after I see that he's struggled for the first few months. So it's unfair for me to make that you know uh, point that out, but it's just something to think about. I wonder how different it would have been. Uh, they're going to upgrade the bullpen too. I think like I was pointing out before, I feel like Sunday was a good example of like, okay, yes, add one more trusted arm, and you can feel really good about this bullpen. There's a lot of talent, but sometimes if you're holding, they barely did enough to get to Garrett Crochet, but it's one of those games where it's like, oh, if you have that one extra arm because Brad Keller was down and you weren't gonna push Thielbar for multiple innings, you wonder what a difference one more arm could make for that bullpen.
Yeah, I think watching the Red Sox go on that hot streak, seeing them this weekend at Wrigley Field does not strike us as a team that's going to sell. So we're probably crossing off Aroldis Chapman from the list. And then after that, Mason Miller, our colleague Ken Rosenthal, wrote about him in The Athletic, and it seems like maybe there's a little wiggle room there, but like the types of teams that he mentioned in his notebook were, those ultra aggressive teams like the Philadelphia Phillies, or maybe AG Preller could do something crazy. Like, I don't know. To me, I don't really feel like the Cubs are all that likely to like go all out for a Sacramento closer, to be honest. Like, it just doesn't fit their MO. And then after that, it's like, I don't know how many guys are clear upgrades over Daniel Palencia, like far and away better than him at this moment. So maybe you set your sights a little lower and look at things a little more broadly and get another guy who has ninth inning experience who could give him a breather once in a while, but mostly you'd be getting him to shorten those games. You'd push him forward within a game of maybe he's pitching the 6th or the 7th and his stuff could play up and his numbers would almost automatically improve just because he has an awesome defense behind him. And just one name, again, as an example, not that he is the end all be all here, but Kyle Finnegan from the Nationals like seems sort of gettable. The price, would probably be more would not hurt as much as the Cubs try to like keep this thing rolling in 2026 and beyond. And a guy who has really good composure and like knows how to pitch. The Cubs have had some success with those types of guys.
Yeah, who knows if they can tease a few more strikeouts out of him, or just simply like him playing in front of a significantly better defense just makes him a much better pitcher. I think that's one simple way that what does he have, like a 4 something ERA, low 4s ERA. You put him in front of this defense, maybe that's sub 4, and you're right, like that's and it's just something that you kind of bet on the experience and say like go have your best 2 months that you've had of this season, that type of thing. And it can work out in your favor. You just need depth right now. You need experience. You need guys that have been through those high leverage moments. And if the lockdown guy isn't available, then I think a guy like Finnegan makes a ton of sense. All right, Patrick. I think it's Kansas City for 3 and then head to the South Side for the weekend, right? So we got 2 more episodes this week. We'll cover all that, talk about how they match up against the Royals. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more talk about the trades, and we'll hear more things this week. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks, everyone. Take